Hello everyone, my name is Colin O'Haron and I'm a senior at a local high school here in Blue Springs, Missouri. Tonight what I'm going to be talking about is I'm going to be talking about misinformation in the modern day, and that's also the social issue that I've kind of chose to study for this specific speech. So misinformation is much more prominent now than what it used to be back a long time ago before technology was around. So before technology, there was a lot more just like person-to-person contact, and really that's the only way that some people could get information would be through this person-to-person contact, unless you were to go through like the newspaper or something like that. But even then, it would still be kind of difficult for like an individual to kind of get their ideas out there. So this means that the only way for there to kind of spread misinformation was, and this is actually the first way that misinformation kind of started being spread, was in politics. So the first way how it kind of started spreading was one side of a political view would kind of start making up lies and start bashing on another side. And so what would happen is these lies, they would get told, and because it's politics, they're high up in power, obviously. So what they can do is their words will go, and then it'll be put in the newspaper, and anybody that sees the newspaper, they be like, oh, okay, so this is the truth now. And then they'll go tell their friends, and then so on and so forth. And then so basically it's just people telling people, and then by this point, it gets to a point where one person starts hearing two different sides of things. And so honestly, it just gets confusing, and honestly, it just makes it difficult to kind of know what exactly the truth is. So there's a few different types of misinformation in the modern day. So the most normal type and the most common type is just throughout all of social media. So there is many posts that could be made by an individual person that can go viral in minutes, and it doesn't matter like what they say in it, even if it's a complete lie, it can go viral in minutes, and hundreds upon thousands upon millions of people can see that. And if they don't know any better, then they will think that is the truth, and then so therefore they are now kind of almost believing a lie. And another way that you can kind of see misinformation is throughout like many headlines or like clickbait headlines in the news. So just kind of anything that's just almost meant to grab your attention, and it's just kind of meant to make you almost just like notice it, but not really go too in depth and think about it. So it's something that's smart enough that's going to get you thinking about it and going to get you talking about it, but not exactly to go in depth and kind of look at the facts of it. And so those are just like a few ways. Also just like throughout like almost like group chats with like a whole bunch of people, literally just like any form of information. And this isn't even on like a political or like a global level. This can literally just be like person to person or like friend groups. A lot of misinformation can spread about a school or a friend group, even just like with how easy it is to pull out your phone and text one of your friends or text a whole group of your friends. And so that's just like some of the biggest ways that misinformation can spread now because of technology. And misinformation can be very dangerous to not only individuals, but also to entire nations. So the biggest way that they can be dangerous is just the fact of not having 100% certainty in what you're reading or what you're learning about can cause a fear and a panic in an individual and in a country. And it can also kind of start to make individuals that fear, start to make unwise and unhealthy decisions to themselves. And those are some of the biggest negatives that come out of misinformation on a personal level, like through social media. And what kind of happens to that, it's called cyberbullying. So it's like if somebody puts out like an idea or a post that they think strongly of, but another person sees that or another group of people see that and they don't like agree with it, then some people will almost start to be mean in a sense, and they will start bullying this person online. And that's called cyberbullying, and that's an entire another like social issue that is at an all-time high right now just because of how much social media has taken over everywhere. But some platforms have kind of started to implement good guidelines and good preventatives to stop cyberbullying. So there is a chance that it will start to go on more of a decline now that those preventatives and those guidelines have been put into place. But it will be very difficult to make cyberbullying in a total just kind of go away. But another thing that misinformation can do is it can influence like elections in a political sense. So just based on what one side or another side says, if they resonate with the people more and they kind of just tell the people what they want to hear, even if it is true, because you can also spread misinformation about yourself. So if you're only putting out the good, then that's also a form of misinformation, because you aren't exactly like showing like your full side. Like I heard a speech a while back that basically just kind of said everybody's highlight reel is on display 24/7 with the social media. And that just kind of stuck with me, and I was like, okay, wow, so what I'm seeing on social media isn't real. And so that can kind of make elections particularly almost one-sided. Just if like there's one side that's posting a whole lot, then they're almost getting towards a whole different demographic that wouldn't have normally voted just because they didn't exactly know about it. Because like the people that are so consumed by technology, those people will be like, oh wow, look, this side is doing all these great things, even if they're not actually doing those, and they're just kind of putting that on just for the social media, just for that highlight reel. Then that just kind of like almost makes an unfair opinion on the public. That just kind of makes it so that an election in particular could be biased towards one side. It can also very much divide communities in the same way of just imagine one side is saying this thing and one side is saying this thing, and it's clashing with each other, and there's people on both sides and so just all the clashing will end up actually dividing them, just with all of the different forms of misinformation that can be spread in this day and age. Another thing, and this is one of the worst things that it can do, is spread hate and spread stereotypes about certain people or about certain religions or about certain races. And so this is one of the ways that misinformation can be the most dangerous to people, is if like people start saying, and if like a group of people start saying on social media about how a certain race does a certain thing, and people start believing that, then that can degrade an entire race. And that brings up a whole nother social issue of racism and just hate speech in general. And so that is its complete own thing. And there's so many different types of misinformations that you can find out on social media. And a lot of new ones have to do with AI. So AI, there's a whole bunch of different types of videos that AI can make, or types of pictures that AI can make that look incredibly real. But the only way for you to really tell if they're real is to go do your own research. And then you can also see a whole bunch of like out of context quotes that you'll see throughout a lot of different types of social medias, and just kind of people taking bits and pieces of what they want to hear to make either a person look really good or make a person look really bad, and not exactly give you the full context. So those are like two very common types of misinformation that you will see in this day and age. So some easy ways to kind of make sure that you're getting the real picture is go out and check the sources, go out and like make sure it's trusted, make sure that like the place where you're getting it from isn't made by like a same person that's saying something, that it's by a trusted source, that it's by a trusted organization. And another thing that you can do is you can make sure and see if that matches up with multiple different sources. So if you have one thing that matches up with like 4 different sources, then you can probably believe that that's going to be at least mostly truth. In another way, and something that I have personally seen a lot, and just like kind of like the taking like your own little out of context clips, is also checking the date on when somebody might have said something. So there'll be a lot of times where somebody will say something and then it'll get blown up and posted so much later, but the person will get a whole bunch of hate for that, even though it was something that they said a super long time ago, and it might have even have been okay to say then. But there's just so many different types of misinformation that you can spread, and that people can spread, and that you can fall a victim to in this day and age, with just how easy it is to fall into with social media. So yeah, have a great night.